Hey everyone, I see a lot of you are watching our videos, but many forget to hit that like button. And it really helps our channel grow and reach more people who need to hear stories like this. So if you enjoy our content, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Today's story is not just about betrayal, it's about silence, distance, and the quiet ways two people can lose each other, even while sharing the same house, the same bed, the same life. This isn't a fairy tale. It's the story of Claire and Ben, a marriage nearly undone by the weight of everything unspoken, and the choice to try again, even when it hurt. Let's begin. Sometimes what breaks a marriage isn't a scream. It's not the lipstick on a collar or a hotel receipt slipped between papers. Sometimes it's silence. It's a pause too long between, "How was your day?" and "Fine." A flicker of distance that creeps in like fog, quietly, persistently, until one day you wake up and realize you're married to someone you haven't truly seen in years. That was me on the night of our 17th wedding anniversary. To anyone else, it would have looked perfect. Our table at Marché was bathed in golden light. The maitre d' greeted us by name. There was a bottle of Syrah we used to drink in our early years, now 3 times the price. I wore a navy silk dress Ben had picked out the Christmas before. He looked good too. Freshly shaved, shirt pressed, his usual quiet confidence in place. He smiled at me across the table, reached out, touched my hand. "Happy anniversary," he said. 17 years, I replied, smiling. I meant it. The smile, the words. But something inside me was flickering, like a TV screen losing signal. Dinner was good, the kind of good you don't notice because you expect it to be. We talked about the kids, Owen's SATs, Mila's new obsession with marine biology. He asked about my latest freelance project, and I told him it was going well. We were polished, pleasant, like old colleagues catching up after a few years apart. Then he did something that surprised me. From a small bag at his feet, Ben pulled out a leather-bound photo album. "I had this made," he said. "Thought you might like it." The cover was stamped with our wedding date, October 14th, 2007. Inside, I saw us, younger, sunlit, our honeymoon in Yosemite, the cabin where it snowed in April, the tiny apartment in Seattle where we shared a single bathroom and fought over shelf space and made love on the kitchen floor because there wasn't enough room anywhere else, Mila's birth, Owen's first Halloween. There was so much joy in those pictures I felt my chest tighten. I looked up and smiled again. "Thank you," I whispered. But as I flipped another page, something hollow echoed inside me, like looking at someone else's memories. Like I was watching a movie I used to star in, but now couldn't remember filming. When we got home, the kids were asleep. The house smelled like cinnamon I had baked earlier. Ben made 2 cups of chamomile tea, the way he always did when we couldn't finish the wine. He brought them to the couch and sat beside me, resting one hand on my thigh. "I found something else," he said, while going through the attic. From a cardboard box, he pulled out an old camcorder. "You remember this?" I did. The Panasonic with the clunky zoom. We had filmed everything with it back then. Birthdays, camping trips, even lazy Sunday mornings where Mila toddled around in diapers, and we laughed at everything and nothing. He pressed play. The screen buzzed. And there we were, our wedding day. I was 24, all soft curls and lace and nerves. Ben looked like a boy playing dress-up in his father's tux, his hands trembling as he slid the ring on my finger. We danced under fairy lights. People cheered. My father cried. I laughed watching it. Really laughed. It felt good. Then the tape shifted. The reception. The camera panned across the room, a blur of movement, people toasting, swaying to music. And then I froze. There I was, near one of the support columns tucked into a shadowy corner. A young man stood in front of me, maybe a waiter or someone from the venue staff. He looked barely 21. Dark hair, nervous eyes. I was smiling at him, laughing. Then I touched his chest and kissed him. Not a peck, not a mistake. A real kiss. I heard the sharp sound of ceramic against tile. I turned. Ben was standing in the kitchen, his teacup shattered on the floor. He didn't say anything, just stared at the screen like it had betrayed him. I started, but the words didn't come. I couldn't explain it because I didn't remember it. Not really. Not until that moment. Maybe I had buried it so deep I convinced myself it never happened. Or maybe I'd rewritten it in my mind as harmless. A joke, a blur of champagne and adrenaline. But seeing it, seeing me, I felt sick. Ben didn't ask questions. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just turned, walked upstairs, and closed the bedroom door. I sat on the couch for hours. The footage played in a loop, my face smiling, my hands reaching, that kiss, and all I could think was, what else have I forgotten? The next morning, Ben wasn't in the bedroom. His side of the bed was still made, his pillow untouched. I found him downstairs, already dressed, sipping coffee at the dining table like nothing had happened. He looked up when I entered the room, but didn't smile. "Morning," he said, his voice even, calm in that way people get when they've been up all night thinking. I nodded. I wanted to say something, anything, but I didn't know where to begin. I don't remember, didn't feel like enough. It was nothing would be worse, so I said nothing at all. We went through the motions that day like we always did. Mila needed her water bottle for school. Owen couldn't find his sneakers. I answered emails. Ben left for work. But beneath every normal gesture, there was an echo of something else. Like walking through a house after the storms passed and realizing the foundation has cracked. And yet, he didn't bring it up. Days passed. He didn't mention the kiss. Didn't ask me to explain. Didn't tell me he was angry. Instead, he became what I can only describe as polite. He made small talk. He helped clean the kitchen. He fixed the leaky faucet I'd been asking about for weeks. But the warmth, the softness, was gone. He stopped reaching for my hand while we watched TV. He no longer kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Our conversations became sparse, practical. I once read that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. But this wasn't indifference, not quite. It was presence without connection. He was there, physically, but emotionally. He was retreating somewhere I couldn't follow. I started questioning everything. That kiss. That stupid, senseless kiss from 17 years ago. Why did it matter now? Why did it still have the power to wound? But deep down, I already knew. It wasn't about the kiss, not really. It was about the crack it revealed. The fact that even at the start of our marriage, I had hidden something from him. That I had been capable of betrayal even when we were supposed to be at our best. And worse, that I had forgotten. The guilt clung to me like smoke. It followed me around the house, into the shower, the grocery store, the carpool lane. I began to notice the way Ben moved around me. Not with anger, but with caution. As if I were something fragile he didn't know how to hold anymore, or something dangerous. One night, about a week after the tape, I found him in the garage. He was standing over the workbench, staring at an old wooden frame he had started restoring months ago and never finished. "I was going to give it to you," he said quietly when he noticed me. "For your office." I stepped closer. The frame was beautiful, hand-carved, a little weathered at the edges. I remembered when he found it at a flea market on our trip to Cannon Beach. He'd carried it around for hours, saying it had potential, that it reminded him of me. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Then, finally, "I'm not angry about the kiss." That surprised me. "I mean, I was," he admitted, "but not for the reasons you think. It's not the kiss that keeps me up at night. It's that I didn't know. That there was a part of you, even back then, I didn't really see." I blinked back tears. "I didn't see it either. Until that night." He nodded. "Yeah." We stood there for a long time, surrounded by paint cans and dust, and 17 years of things unsaid. That was the thing about marriage no one prepared you for. It wasn't just about love, or loyalty, or even communication. It was about visibility. Seeing each other, really seeing, even when the years built walls and routine numbed the edges. I wanted to ask him if he still loved me. I wanted to ask if we were okay, but I was afraid of the answers. So instead, I asked the only question I could manage. "Do you think we're broken?" He looked at me. Not through me, at me, for the first time in days. "I think we've been broken for a while," he said. "We just didn't notice." That night, we didn't touch. We lay side by side in bed, like strangers waiting out a storm. But there was something new in the silence. Not peace, but maybe the start of honesty. The next morning, I found a note beside my coffee cup. "I don't know how to fix this, but I don't want to lose you." It wasn't romantic, it wasn't grand, but it was real, and it was enough. For now. Ben's note stayed tucked in the corner of the kitchen bulletin board for weeks. Neither of us spoke about it again. We didn't talk about the tape, or the kiss, or the crack that had formed between us like a hairline fracture no one knows how to mend. We just lived. He still made my coffee in the morning, still picked up the kids from school when I had late client calls, still fixed the porch light when it flickered. But it all felt like choreography, steps we had rehearsed so many times we didn't have to think anymore. Some mornings we passed each other in the hallway like ghosts, like two people living parallel lives inside the same quiet house. I told myself we were healing, that things like this took time, that we were doing what grown-ups do, staying, working, showing up. But deep down, I felt like I was slowly slipping under. I started spending more time online. It wasn't intentional. At first, it was just distraction, a way to escape the quiet spaces between me and Ben. I'd scroll through design blogs, watch old cooking videos I'd saved years ago. Some nights I'd read for hours, barely noticing the time pass. Then one night, I clicked on a banner I usually ignored. "Rediscover yourself, make new connections, no strings." It led to a site I'd never heard of. It wasn't a dating app exactly, more like a journaling platform with private messaging, a place where people posted anonymously, fears, questions, confessions. I don't know why I made an account. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't even use my real name. But once I was in, I found myself writing. Just a few lines at first. "I'm married, 17 years, 2 kids. We're not fighting, we're just fading." I didn't expect anyone to read it, but someone did. A message appeared the next morning. @Driftwood, 3. I get that. Sometimes silence is louder than yelling. I almost didn't respond, but the username made me pause. Something about it felt familiar, rootless, worn by water and time. So I wrote back. "Do you ever feel like you're still in love with the idea of someone, not the person they've become?" He replied within minutes, @Driftwood, 3. "Or maybe you're in love with who you were when you were with them, before the fading." That hit me harder than I expected. His name, or the name he gave, was Alex. He said he was a therapist, semi-retired, divorced, 2 kids, like me. He lived on the coast, somewhere near Astoria. He loved jazz and woodworking. He'd been sober for 5 years. We didn't flirt, we just talked. At first once a day, then twice, then in long, meandering threads that sometimes stretched past midnight. He asked me things no one had asked in years. "What do you dream about now? Do you still write stories for yourself or just for clients? When was the last time someone made you feel seen?" I didn't tell him my real name. I didn't ask for his photo, but I told him the truth. I told him about the tape, the kiss, the silence that followed. I told him about the guilt, the confusion, the part of me that felt like I was watching my life from outside a locked window. And he never judged. He just listened. There was one night, a cold Thursday in November, when the rain was hitting the window so hard I couldn't sleep. I sat at the dining table with a glass of wine, the house dark and silent, and typed, "Do you think you can still love someone and not want them anymore?" His answer came after a pause. "Driftwood, 3. Yes." Love and want don't always walk together, and sometimes that's the hardest part. That night, I cried. Not because I was in love with him, not because I was planning to leave Ben, but because someone finally said the thing I'd been too scared to admit out loud, that maybe I still loved my husband, but I didn't know if I wanted to stay. I knew what I was doing wasn't innocent. Even if it wasn't physical, even if there were no hotel rooms or lipstick-stained shirts, something was happening. I was building an intimacy outside my marriage, a secret space where I could be raw, real, unedited, and once you build a world that doesn't include your partner, it becomes easier and easier to live there. One evening, Ben walked into the room while I was typing. I switched tabs quickly, too quickly. He didn't say anything, just looked at me for a long moment, his eyes tired, questioning but quiet.
"You okay?"
he asked. I nodded. Just finishing some edits. He stood there a moment longer, like he wanted to ask more. Then he nodded once and walked away. And I realized we had both become good at pretending. The first time I considered meeting Alex, it came quietly, not as a plan, not as a deliberate betrayal, just a thought. A small, sharp whisper. What if? It was a Sunday morning. Ben had taken Mila to her soccer match, and Owen was holed up in his room, headphones on, lost in whatever world teenagers disappear into. I was folding laundry in the living room, the kind of mindless chore that lets your thoughts wander, and my phone buzzed. Had Driftwood Chateau 43. I'll be in Portland this week, just one night, not suggesting anything, just letting you know. I stared at the message longer than I should have. I could have ignored it. I could have said no, could have ended it right there. Instead, I typed, "Where will you be staying?" He sent the name of a hotel. Quiet, mid-range, tucked in a corner of the Pearl District, where the streets smelled like fresh coffee and wet concrete. I didn't respond. But that night, I dreamt of him. Not romantically, not sexually, just sitting across from me in a small, quiet cafe, his hands around a ceramic mug, listening the way he always had. Eyes kind, unhurried, steady. When I woke up, I felt guilt sitting in my throat like a stone. I tried to delete the thread. I couldn't. 3 days later, I found myself in my car. Engine running, parked outside that very hotel. I told Ben I had a client meeting. Something about a branding consult for a boutique wine label. He nodded, distracted, scrolling through his phone. He didn't ask questions. He hadn't in a while. I sat there in the driver's seat, hands gripping the wheel, heart pounding like I was 16 again and sneaking out past curfew. I didn't go inside. I didn't even text Alex. I just sat there, watched people come and go, imagined. And then I drove home. No one ever knew, but something in me had shifted. I had gone. Not all the way, not quite, but I had gone. That night, Ben and I were brushing our teeth side by side. It had become one of the few moments of true proximity we still shared. The soft fluorescent light, the quiet of the kids' rooms down the hall, the mundane comfort of routine. I rinsed, leaned on the counter, glanced at him in the mirror. "You ever feel like we're just performing?" I asked. He looked at me, toothpaste still in his mouth. Then he spit, wiped his face with a towel. "Yeah," he said, no hesitation. "All the time." It was such a simple answer, and yet it cracked something in me. "Why don't we talk about it more?" I asked. He leaned on the counter next to me, his shoulders slumped. "Because I don't know where to start," he said. "And I'm scared if I do, we won't stop unraveling." I didn't respond. Because I was scared too. We had built so much. A house, a family, 17 years of traditions and timelines and photos on the fridge. But underneath it all was this question neither of us could ask. What if this isn't enough anymore? And then one night, it all came to a head. It was a Thursday. I remember that because the kids had frozen pizza and movie night, and I had retreated to the bedroom with a bottle of red I hadn't planned to finish, but did. I was lying in bed, scrolling through old messages from Alex, rereading things he'd written that had made me feel alive again, seen, desired. And then, as if fate wanted to shatter the illusion, I heard Ben's voice from the doorway. "Who's Alex?" I froze. He was standing there holding my phone. I must have left it unlocked in the kitchen, or maybe it buzzed while I was pouring wine. My heart dropped into my stomach. My voice caught. "He's just someone I talk to." His eyes didn't move. "How long?" "Months," I whispered. "Is it physical?" "No," I said quickly. Too quickly. He stepped into the room, set the phone down on the dresser. His voice was quiet, dangerously even. "Don't lie to me, Claire. Not now." I shook my head, eyes stinging. "I swear, we've never met. I almost did, but I didn't." Ben sat on the edge of the bed, his face in his hands. "I knew something was wrong. I didn't think it was this." "It's not like that," I said, but the words felt limp. Useless. He looked up at me then, eyes red, raw. "You're in love with him?" I couldn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Maybe I wasn't in love with Alex. Maybe I was just in love with being seen again. Ben stood up, walked slowly to the door, then paused. "I didn't cheat on you when I found that tape," he said, "even though I wanted to, even though part of me hated you for it." He turned, his voice low. "But I stayed. I stayed, Claire. What the hell do you want from me?" And then he was gone. The door didn't slam. He didn't shout, but somehow the silence left in his wake was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Ben didn't come home that night. I sat on the edge of our bed, the same one we bought together a decade ago at a warehouse sale after spending a Saturday arguing over firmness levels. I remember how we laughed in the car afterward, him teasing me about my obsession with lumbar support. And now, that mattress felt like a canyon, hollow in the places we used to meet. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just sat in the dark, waiting for a sound that never came. A door unlocking, the creak of floorboards, the comfort of footsteps. But the house stayed quiet. The next morning, I found a text on my phone. "Ben. Staying at my brother's. I'll be back to get some things after work. Nothing else. No anger. No questions. Just distance." I sat at the kitchen table for hours, my coffee cold, watching the steam disappear into nothing. I wanted to tell him it wasn't what he thought. That I didn't sleep with Alex. That it never crossed that line. But I knew better. I knew that emotional betrayal sometimes cut deeper than the physical. That telling your secrets to someone else, your fears, your sadness, the parts of yourself your spouse stopped looking for, could be more devastating than a body in someone else's bed. And worse, I had crossed a second line. I had let myself feel something for another man, maybe not love, maybe not lust, but need. And I hadn't needed Ben in a long time. That truth sat like acid in my chest. He came the next evening, knocked instead of using his key. The formality stung. The kids were at a sleepover, a miracle of timing that left only the wreckage between us to navigate. I opened the door, and there he was, the man I married. Same frame, same tired eyes. But something was different now. Something had shut behind them. He stepped inside, didn't look at me. Went straight upstairs to the bedroom, gathered a duffel bag, a pair of boots, a stack of folded t-shirts. He didn't take much. Just enough to survive somewhere else. When he came back down, I was standing in the living room. "I don't know what you want me to say," I told him. He stopped by the door, his hand on the knob. "I don't want you to say anything," he replied. "Not until you know what you mean." I nodded slowly. My throat burned. "And what about you? Do you know what you mean anymore?" He looked at me then, for real this time, his jaw clenched, his voice low. "I don't know who we are, and I don't think you do either." Then he was gone. No slammed door, no bags thrown on the sidewalk. Just quiet. And God, did it hurt. The days blurred. I moved through them like I was underwater, made breakfast, took calls, answered emails, smiled at the neighbors. I even texted Alex once, "I can't talk anymore. Please don't respond." And then deleted the account entirely. There was no drama in it, just the slow, aching death of something that was never supposed to live outside my loneliness. Ben didn't text, didn't call, but every night I left the porch light on, like I was waiting for someone I didn't have the right to expect anymore. Then one night, about 2 weeks after he left, there was a letter on the front step. No envelope, just a single sheet, folded once. I read it standing under the porch light. "Claire, I don't know what to do with this pain. I've been carrying it since the night I saw that tape. The kiss, the lie, the years of not knowing. And then the silence, the pretending. But what breaks me most is knowing I became part of it, that I stopped asking you where it hurt, that I let us become polite strangers who talked about milk and soccer schedules and nothing else. I keep asking myself, did we stop seeing each other, or did we stop wanting to be seen? I don't have an answer. Not yet. But I do know this. I miss you. Not the you who writes emails and makes grilled cheese and fills out permission slips. I miss the woman who used to read poetry in the bath, the one who dragged me to jazz bars on weeknights and told me the sky smelled different right before it rained. I miss the way you used to look at me, like I was still becoming. I don't need perfection. I don't even need certainty. But if there's still a version of you who wants to be found, I'd like to meet her again. B. I read it twice, then a third time. Then I sat down on the steps and cried so hard I thought I might crack open. Because somewhere between the lines, I realized I missed him too. Not just the man who brought me coffee or paid the mortgage or held our babies when they cried. I missed the man who wrote that letter, who still wanted to know who I was now even after all of it. The next morning, I wrote him back. I didn't text, didn't email. I used paper, ink, my real handwriting, messy, uneven, mine. And I started with the truth. I mailed the letter the same afternoon I wrote it. I don't know why. He wasn't far. I could have texted, called. But something about putting my words into a real envelope, pressing the stamp down with my thumb, it made it feel heavier, more intentional, like I wasn't just reacting, but choosing. 3 days passed. No reply. I told myself I hadn't expected one, but every time I passed the mailbox, something in me stirred. On the 4th day, I came home to find a white envelope on our front doormat. No name. Just the word yes scribbled on the flap in Ben's unmistakable handwriting. Inside was a note. Short, clipped. Saturday, 10 a.m., the place with the plants in the window, if you still want to talk. I smiled. The place with the plants in the window was how we always referred to a tiny cafe on Hawthorne we used to visit when we were first dating. They served lattes in chipped mugs, and the same elderly woman sat in the corner with her crossword puzzle every morning. It had been years. When I arrived, he was already there. Jeans, flannel, a coffee in hand. He stood when he saw me. And I'll never forget that, because somewhere along the way, we'd both stopped standing for each other. "Hi," I said. "Hi," he said. It wasn't dramatic. There was no slow-motion hug, no tears, just two people who'd shared a life and lost their way and still, somehow, showed up. We sat. He ordered me my usual without asking. I didn't say thank you out loud, but I did in my eyes, and he nodded, like he heard it anyway. For a while, we didn't talk. Just drank coffee, watched people pass outside the foggy window. Finally, I asked, "Do you still love me?" He didn't look away. "Yes." "But do you like me?" I asked. "Do you like this version of me?" He laughed quietly. Not mean, just tired. "I don't know this version of you yet," he said. "But I want to." I swallowed hard. "I want to know you too." He nodded. "Then maybe we start there." What followed wasn't a reunion. It wasn't a montage of candlelit dinners and rediscovered chemistry. It was awkward coffee dates and long drives where we said nothing and therapy sessions where I cried too hard to speak and he clenched his jaw to keep from breaking down. We didn't move back in together. We didn't make promises we couldn't keep. We just showed up, week by week. We started a shared notebook, something our therapist suggested. We wrote to each other every other day. Sometimes just one sentence. I miss how you used to trace circles on my back when I couldn't sleep. I'm scared you'll always look at me and remember what I did. Today I wanted to touch your hand but didn't know if it was okay. It's okay. We made rules. No old messages, no talking about Alex, no asking about what the other had thought about doing. Not yet. Instead, we focused on the now, the space between us that was raw and unfamiliar and new, and we discovered we didn't laugh at the same things anymore, that I liked long walks and he preferred hikes with purpose, that I cooked too much and he didn't eat enough when stressed, that I journaled every day and he sometimes couldn't face his own reflection in the mirror. We relearned each other. And then one night, 6 weeks in, we kissed. It wasn't planned. We were sitting on my back porch, sharing a blanket, watching the rain, and something just shifted. He reached for my hand, not with certainty, but curiosity. I didn't pull away. His lips touched mine, and for a second, it wasn't the past or the betrayal or the guilt between us. It was just skin and heat, and the hope of a new beginning. We pulled apart and didn't say anything for a while. Then he whispered, "I don't want to go back to who we were." And I whispered back, "Neither do I." Because who we were had stopped seeing each other. Who we were had failed. But maybe, just maybe, who we were becoming could do better. One night, while clearing out old files in the garage, I found something unexpected. A dusty cardboard box with my name written on the side in Ben's handwriting. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Some dated years ago, some only months. All written by Ben. They weren't addressed to me directly. They were more like journal entries. Unmailed confessions. Things he had felt and never said. "I don't know how to make you smile anymore and it's killing me. I miss your laugh. I miss mine too. Sometimes I wonder if I lost you. Or if we both just disappeared inside the silence." And the last letter, dated the night I told him about Alex, simply read, "If you come back, I'll be here. But only if you want to come back as you." I sat on the garage floor for a long time, my fingers trembling. Then I took out a sheet of paper and wrote one sentence. "I'm here. Not who I was, but more myself than I've ever been." I folded it, placed it on top of the stack, and sealed the box. Not to hide it again, but to honor it. Because this, all of this, the pain, the silence, the almost ending, had led us here. To the possibility of something real. Not perfect, but real. We never threw a big party, no recommitment ceremony, no family dinner where we stood up and announced that we made it. That wasn't us. Instead, it was smaller things, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. The fact that Ben moved back into the house, but not immediately into our bedroom. We took our time, relearned what it meant to share space, that he started leaving sticky notes on the fridge again, the kind he used to write back when we were newlyweds. Just simple things like, "You looked peaceful in your sleep. Save me the last slice of pie or I'll riot. Rain's coming. Don't forget the umbrella. I love that you still look at the sky like it talks to you." Or the way I'd catch myself laughing at his stupid jokes, the ones I used to roll my eyes at. Not because they were suddenly funnier, but because he was trying again. So I tried too. We didn't become a better version of ourselves overnight. We just became a version that was willing to look at the cracks, sit with them and say, "I still want this." We built new rituals. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, he'd pick out produce, I'd challenge him to cook with it. The first time he made eggplant parm, we both agreed it was inedible. But we ate it anyway, sitting on the kitchen floor, giggling like teenagers. We started a photo wall. Not posed portraits, just Polaroids of real life. Dishes in the sink, hands almost touching, rainy sidewalks, smudged glasses of red wine. Sunday naps with Mila curled up between us on the couch, each one a quiet declaration, "We're still here." Sometimes we still argued. Sometimes I still felt a flicker of resentment for all the years we stopped seeing each other. Sometimes he'd catch me staring out the window too long and wonder if I was still somewhere else in my mind. But we didn't run from those moments anymore. We said them out loud. "I'm scared again. I feel small today. I need you to hold my hand even when I say I'm fine." One night, Ben asked me, "Do you ever wish none of this had happened?" We were lying in bed, the kind of silence between us that no longer felt heavy, just still. I thought about it. About the betrayal, the anger, the letters, the almost ending. Then I shook my head. No, I said, because I don't think we'd know each other like this if we hadn't broken first. He turned to me, eyes soft. Yeah, me neither. And that was it. Not a grand statement, just two people choosing to believe in the pieces and in the hands willing to put them back together. One afternoon, I found our daughter reading one of the notebooks we kept, the journal where we used to write to each other. She looked up at me, curious. Is this yours and Dad's? I nodded. Did you guys almost split up? I didn't lie. Yes, I said, but we decided to stay. Not because it was easy, but because we wanted to find each other again. She looked thoughtful, then handed it back gently. That's kind of beautiful. I smiled. It is, and it's hard, and it's real. She nodded like she understood, or like she would someday. We put the journal back in the drawer. Next to it was the box, the one with all the letters, a little frayed now, worn from being opened and closed so many times. We never threw it away. It became part of the story, a reminder of the in-between. Sometimes I still write to Ben, not because I have to, but because writing is how I know I'm still paying attention. He writes back too. The other day, I opened the box and found a fresh envelope sitting on top. No stamp. Just my name. Inside, one line. Even when we're quiet, I hear you. And in that moment, I knew. We weren't trying to go back. We were moving forward, not fast, not perfectly, but together, still choosing. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for happiness to arrive. I was in it, even when it was quiet, especially then. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with us through the end of this story. We know stories like this don't always have neat endings, but sometimes the most powerful love is the kind that breaks and still finds its way back. If this story moved you, leave a comment and let us know. Have you ever found your way back to someone after everything seemed lost? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more honest, emotional stories about love, loss, betrayal, and what it really means to stay. Until next time, stay present, stay brave, and remember, sometimes love doesn't roar. Sometimes it just whispers, I'm still here.